What's up guys, it's Missy. I am back with another SimCity Buildit video, and today this is going to be kind of an interesting contest of mayors video. We're going to talk about something that I have talked about very briefly on the channel because it doesn't happen very often. However, a lot of you guys are probably experiencing it this week. So many of you guys know that I run a training course for the contest of mayors to learn the technique that I put together for lower level players to win the contest of mayors in the Mega League. Now, many of my trainers are in my group and they send me the screenshots of their tasks, and I can see a pattern this week with not their tasks specifically, but everybody's tasks that I'm seeing that are coming in are almost identical. Okay, now for a long time I have worked on a theory that the contest of mayors is relatively the same for everybody in it. So here's the theory that I have, that they would have to make it semi even. They would have to even out the playing field for it to be fair, right? That being said, if you take the same level player and you put them all together the way that they do, right? You have certain players that have certain things unlocked that other players may not have unlocked, like the airport, but that doesn't seem to have any effect on the contest of mayors assignments. You still have the airport assignments whether you unlock it or not. Same with the VU tower. You still get VU assignments whether you have that unlocked or not. So certain things, though, require that you unlock them. For example, once you hit level 24, you're going to unlock epic projects. That's an automatic thing, right? And you'll get those assignments whether you have epics available or not. Now, regionals, however, you're not going to unlock regional tasks unless you unlock a regional map. So a lot of you guys that are in my training course do not have regional maps unlocked, but you are level 25, 24 to 25. A lot of players are experiencing the exact same algorithm of tasks this week. So in a nutshell, what we're seeing here is a lot of you guys are experiencing an overflow of upgrades and factory production tasks this week, and not very many high valued tasks in the beginning of the week. Now, I briefly spoke about this on the channel where we talk about downtime and how the game will kind of even you out, right? So when you think about it, okay, so I'm going to basically go through what a normal week would be. A normal week, you open up your list, right? You start off the week with the highest valued assignment is at the very top of the list, and it goes down in values, right? So they never put a 3K task at the bottom and a 1K task above. It goes by value, and you start with the highest at the top, and then it goes down to the lower ones. Now, what ends up happening is you do your task assessment, and you look at all of your tasks that you have available. You kind of arrange your shops to prep, you rotate them. You do your main tasks first. So if you have like a 3K VU, then you would start with that, obviously, right? If you're somebody who doesn't know what you're doing, you snag one from the bottom and you start doing coins just because they're easy and making stupid mistakes. Okay, so when you play with this technique, you start with the highest value task that is rotatable, or well, it is your main task. Okay, once your main tasks are gone, which a main task is one that basically is the obvious choice. Okay, it's the highest one in the list that needs taken care of, whether it be a cancellation or whatever. It's right in that, above that 2K bracket. Okay, so typically what happens is you start your week off doing your highest tasks, and you slowly use up all of your main tasks. Okay, now let's say you do a 3K VU and it kicks you a 1K delivery, and then you look down here and you have a 2K launch war attack. You're going to go with the launch war attack because it's higher than the delivery, right? And you're just going to do all of your highest premiums and see what the game kicks you back. If you do that 2K launch war attack and you get another 3k VU, you're going to go with that 3k VU. Now, once those obvious choices have been used and the game starts to slowly kick you rotatable tasks or things that you can't do, that is when you start to assess your list. And you start to look at the bigger picture and you start to say, okay, I need to figure out which one of these rotatable options is the highest value with the best opportunity. Or I need to sacrifice a few points for better opportunity. For example, let's say that you have a 1500 glue task versus a 1000 deliveries task, right? You would go with the glue task because of its value, because it's so high. But let's say that the glue was only 1200 points. You would sacrifice those 200 points to open up that premium, because certain premiums hold higher opportunity than other premiums. And that is the one thing that you kind of have to learn, and that is what that quick guide is for that I put together for you guys, which I'm going to be making some adjustments to. But basically, every task has its own opportunity, its own algorithm, and you have to learn what that is. So saying something is premium and putting all of the premiums into a category and assuming that rotating any premium is going to result in equal opportunity, that is not the case. So when you look at, let's say, a production task being a premium task versus let's say a deliveries task being premium, the deliveries has the ability to be worth 3,000 points, right? The production tasks are never usually worth that much. And you also have to look at the fact that they have a higher likelihood of coming in worth more value. So the opportunity is greater for a deliveries than a glue task. Now, given the fact that it's only 200 points, you are basically saying, I'm going to sacrifice those 200 points for greater opportunity going forward. Now, that makes sense, right? Okay. Now, this is what reverse rotation is. Reverse rotation is where you look at your list, and almost everything in your list is of a lower value, even your premiums. All of your premiums, like you got a 1k VU, let's say a 1200 feed, 1000 monster, you've got the 1100 coins, everything is right around, let's say 1500 points or less. Okay, and then you've got maybe a few high upgrades, and because you're a low level, you're camping and you can't do them. Okay, so the first thing that you have to look at is your upgrades. That's always the one thing that you have to focus on when you're somebody who's camping, is everything that you're doing has to revolve around those upgrades, whether they be there of a low value and you're rotating your premiums around them as they're of a low value, or whether they be there of a high value and you have to either cancel them to open up opportunity for better things to occur, or you have to leave them sit for a few tasks because the game is spitting out, upgrade after upgrade that blocks the ability for a high upgrade to come in and allows the game to stack up a couple of lower valued upgrades. Now, trying to predict these occurrences before it's too late, it's really hard. But if you manage to kind of get that gut feeling that, like, hey, I have a feeling the game's going to start kicking me some upgrades here, I'm going to go ahead, leave this sit, I'm going to rotate in something and see what it gives me. Then it gives you a low upgrade. That is a good time to not cancel that high upgrade. Okay, because it just gave you a low upgrade, which means the game is giving you upgrades, and that high one being there is what blocked that one from coming in of a high value, right? So if you clear that high upgrade and the game is in a mood to give you upgrades, it is going to result in eventually, within the task or two, probably giving you that high upgrade again. Now, the tricky part is when you're looking in your list and you have all of your premiums are of a low value and all of your non-premiums are of a low value, okay? Now, reverse rotation is where you rotate low non-premiums, okay? to trigger, you rotate your low non-premiums to get high premiums, right? So what ends up happening is the game is in a mood where it's going to fluctuate. It's going to go up and down, okay? So usually the way the game works is it starts off up and you do really good. The first couple tasks, your average is really, really great, okay? And so you're looking at your average, maybe you've done 10 tasks and you're doing really great. You've got like a 2,500 average or something. And you're like, well, if I can keep this up, I'll be good to go, right? You're feeling pretty good that it's going to be a good week. And then a couple more tasks go and you start to get crappy tasks and your average starts to drop fast. And now all of a sudden you're like, uh-oh. And you're kind of hesitant to even pick an assignment because everything is just going wrong, right? Now, then all of a sudden, the game kicks you a 3K VU task. And it brings your average back up a little bit. Not quite to where it was, but back up. And then you're like, okay, cool. It's game's starting to be nice to me again. Then it drops you back down again. Then up again, then down again. And it's this process. But it's usually within about 5 to 10 tasks that you go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. But what'll happen is the game almost always levels you out. So you ever notice how you'll have a 1K booster, war booster, and then the game will give you a 3K task in return? Now the game doesn't know you're camping. So when you do that booster and you get a 3K upgrade in return, the game is trying to keep you at that 2K average, essentially, because you're doing 2 tasks and that would equal 4,000 points, right? If you would have chosen, let's say, a 2K task, you would have been more likely to either get a 2K task in return or one just below that value. Whereas when you do your 1K tasks, you have a more likely chance of getting a higher one in return, especially if it's a premium or one that is not done, or one that doesn't pop up very often. So like an upgrade hotspot for you high level players, that usually results in a high task. The war booster usually results in a high task. The launch legendary, if it's worth about 1,200 points, that usually results in a high task. Any kind of launch war attack, like launch 1 on the rare war attack, those, the 1K deliveries, the reason that those result in a higher kickback is because you took less points and the game is trying to level you out, right? So essentially what you're doing is you're saying you want to get as many points as possible within the allowed number of tasks. Now, realistically, you would think that you would always want to choose your highest task, right? But what ends up happening with that is if you look at the bottom of your list and you have very little options to get high tasks because they're all being blocked of low values, of low placements, then you end up in this situation where you are stuck in a rut where you're only getting, let's say, between 1,200 and 1,600 tasks. So for high level players, the choice is almost always your highest option. However, you always want to keep an eye on the bottom of your list to make sure that you don't have all of your premiums blocked off of a low value. When you're a low level player, you're working around those upgrades and it's a major pain in the butt. This is the hardest part, okay, of trying to play a low level CoM is working around those upgrades. Now, during this downtime, what we're experiencing this week is we're experiencing a extreme uptime and an extreme downtime. Usually it's cut in half. So the first half of the contest is either really, really good or it's really, really bad. Normally, like I just said, what ends up happening is you start the week off really good and you just kind of have an up and down kind of week. It's really okay. Or you do really good the first half and the second half just blows. You're just you're kind of going up and down and it's just nothing is working in your favor. But at the end of the week, you look at your score and it's not that bad. It's not as bad as you would have expected it be given the circumstances. Now, the worst thing that can happen during the contest is what's going on this week. And that is when you have your downtime at the beginning of the contest. Okay, now this doesn't happen very often. Usually it happens on the week off from the pass, and I think the reason for that is because you're not doing the pass, so they know that you're not needing as many points. You know, you're not, like, it seems like the first week of the pass they give you a lot of really high point assignments, maybe to get you a head start on the pass or what. I don't know what the reasoning is behind that, but like last week we had a lot of weirdo things going on with those 10k and 12k war upgrades because they messed with the algorithm of the war tasks. So I'm not surprised by the way it's been going this week, but typically what's happening this week is you usually have a really good beginning and a bad, end, or you end up having vice versa. And the one that you don't want is where you start off the week bad, because that usually results in frustration. It results in, picking tasks you wouldn't normally pick, trying to make things happen, and it usually ends up badly. Most people just say, screw it, I'm done this week. But if you can get through it and get past that hump, then you can make up those points, because it will pick back up, or it should pick back up. I'm 99.9% sure it's going to pick back up. Okay, but what do you do in that meantime? That's what I'm going to try to get you guys to understand. So a lot of you guys that are having trouble with understanding the way rotation works to begin with, this is not a video for you. You need to have some advanced knowledge of how rotation works before this is going to make any sense. So right now, if you're looking at your list, and I'm going to pull up some of the lists from some of my group members to kind of show you guys what's going on this week. So give me just a second, and I'm going to show you guys what you're going to be rotating and when and why, okay? Okay, so it's kind of hard to see this, so bear with me here. Ignore the lettering on the right hand side. This person is in training and some of these are incorrect. So what you would do is you would letter them rotatable, non-rotatable, or no touch, right? And then main task. A rotatable task is a task that should be done when all main tasks are gone, and it can be used to open up better opportunities and, open up your premium placements. A no-touch task is a task that you're not going to be doing basically for the rest of the contest, or unless some weirdo thing happens and you're in a rut. But basically, like a 1500 monster or below would be considered a no-touch task. Any low upgrades would be considered no-touch. She has rotatable marked on the 2K Tokyo. That implies that she would be able to do that, and she's camping, and she cannot do that, so it should not have an R next to it. It should not have a no touch next to it either. It should have it should say like NT/C, like possible cancellation. Okay, so what we're looking at here is she's got a 1200 keys, 2000 Tokyo, 1000 war booster, 800 residential, 2500 monster, which has been there since the beginning. Now, this here, a lot of you guys started off the week with a higher monster task that couldn't be done because the monster was a day away. If you're one of those people, I had somebody cancel theirs because it was still a day away, because I knew that it was just blocking everything good from coming in. Since she's canceled that, good things have started happening for her as suspected. But one thing that you have to watch for is those 4 placements worth 2,000 points. And it may not always be in upgrade form. If you have 4 of your 2K placements taken up, that is going to be problematic for you. And in her case, she has a 2500 monster, a 2000 land expansion, which we all know that one just comes right back. Okay, that's why it's so important that you guys get those all done before you get to Mega, or as best you can. Now, if you have it in your list, there is absolutely no point in canceling it, because it's just going to reoccur. If you happen to have enough dozer to do it, then absolutely do it. Get that shit out of your storage and get it taken care of. right? And it will come back in your list, but at least you held your 2K average, you made some space, and you got something done, you know, and it will alleviate a little bit of it until it comes back. Maybe you'll get a couple more decent tasks. That being said, she's got that upgrade, she's got the land expansion, the monster, and then she has, let's see, she's got the feed for 1200, the Tokyo, or the Old Town for 1200, Epic for 1200. It's her first week in Mega. She has like no Epic pointers, so it doesn't make sense to rotate that right now. She hasn't even had a chance to unlock her Mountainside yet, so opening that doorway up is not a good idea right this minute. And then she has a 840 melons task. Right now, she has very little rotatable options that pose really good opportunity. She could rotate in that war booster. However, being how this week is going, that will likely result in a high upgrade. So how do we correct this issue? The first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that the possibility to get 2K tasks is there. If you have more than 4 of your 2K placements taken up, you need to reassess that situation and see what you can do to open up at least 1 or 2 of them. If it's 4 upgrades worth 2,000 points or higher, then you need to follow the standard rules for canceling those. So if they are, let's say, a 2400 Latin, you're not going to cancel that because it has the ability to come in worth 3,600 points. If you have, let's say you have a 2400 Latin, 2400 Old Town, and a 2000 Tokyo, 2000 Paris, you would do a double cancellation on the 2000 ones, because those ones only risk coming back in worth 3,000 points, not 3,600 like the others. Now, if it's like her list and you're in a situation where one of them is a city expansion that you can't get rid of, one of them is a monster that you really can't get rid of because it's a day away, and the other 2 are 2,000 point upgrades. Because of that, we know eventually the monster will get done. So that clears out one of them eventually. Then we have, you know, the expansion. There's nothing we can do to fix that. Then we have the other 2 upgrades. So doing a double cancellation right now on those upgrades, it would probably backfire given the fact that there's not at least 4 of them, or if you have a whole bunch of upgrades in your list that are of a low value, then yes, you could go ahead and do a double cancellation. But for now, you would do a single cancellation on one of them, and you would pick the one that's been sitting for the longest amount of time. Now, saying that it was 4 upgrades and they were all of a higher value, then you would cancel, you would do a double cancel, one right after the other, to reboot the list. In this particular situation, this week, most people were able to clear out and get those 2K placements opened back up, and when they did, because they were in a downtime, they started getting a lot of low value tasks. So here's what you guys are going to do, okay? You're going to look at your list and you're going to break it down into main tasks versus rotatable tasks. Then you're going to look and see whichever one is. If you have any main tasks, go ahead and get those done. Once you're down to your rotatable tasks and you're seeing that you have a list where everything is of a low value, and I'm going to pull it up right now. This one will be larger. You'll be able to see it. One sec. Okay, so this is the top part of her list. She has a 1,425 coin, 1,500 monster, 1,280 on the glass, 1,000 on the VU, 1,200 on the feed, 1,600 on the design challenge, 800 on the donuts, 800 on the epic, 2,400 Latin, 990 chems, 1,240 sugar, 1K upgrade, Tokyo. So as you can see, this list is shit. And as you can see, she's about, well, you can't see it in the photo, but she's about 30 tasks in right now. And the fact that she is rotating, and if you look at the top of her list, this is what the game has been giving her. And given the fact that she already has this in the bottom of her list, these just came in. The game is not giving her high value tasks, and she clearly has those placements open. So right now she's experiencing a downtime. right? So no matter what she rotates, it's going to give her crappy stuff. So here's what you do. Instead of using up all of your really good premium rotatables, you do the exact opposite of what you would normally pick, and only for the amount of time that you're in this down spell. Eventually what you'll notice is you'll start getting higher tasks again. Once you start getting those high tasks again, you switch back over to the rules of rotation, and that is opportunity trumps value. Right now you're going with value trumps opportunity, right? So you're going to do your highest value task, but you're going to go for your non-premiums. So what you would do is you would do things like coin. You can do your epic if you really want to. In her case, it's probably, I mean, it could give her something okay, it could not, but we're not going to touch the VU for 1,000. We're not going to do any deliveries for 1,000 right this minute, if she had any. We're not going to do a cancellation on that 2,400 Latin. It doesn't make sense to do that. But let's say that she had a keys task for 1,200. Normally we would not do that. Normally we would sacrifice those 200 points and we would do the VU, right? In this case, what you're going to experience is the game only gives you so many of each type of task, right? So realistically, if you burn up all of your really good rotatable premiums during your downtime and lower your average, then what happens during your uptime is you end up with all of this garbage because the game just keeps giving you garbage for the second half now, right? Because it's already given you all of your good tasks at the beginning when everything was bad. It just gave them to you of a low value. So if you notice you're in a downtime, you want to try to get yourself into like a VU repair loop if possible, or at least try to rotate those the best that you can. So keys, VU repair, epics, cargo, what else? Coins, any low production tasks, like really low ones. You don't want to have like 3 tasks worth 800 points, you know, on your list. And then once you start to get right around halfway, or when you start to notice that the downtime is starting to pick up again, maybe you start getting, 2,400 keys and things like that. Then go ahead and snag up one of your premium rotatables and test the waters. You know, snag up a launch 1 VU and see if it kicks you something decent. Start seeing if that VU comes back in worth a high value. If that VU comes back worth, let's say, 2,000 or 3,000 points, then you know, okay, the game is starting to pick itself up again. If you do a 1K booster and it kicks you a 3,600 Latin upgrade, you may not want to cancel that just yet, because if it is going to be giving you high value tasks and you don't have very many upgrades in your list, you don't want to end up swamped with a bunch of high upgrades. If you have low upgrades in your list, or you haven't canceled yet and your average is really good, then you can go ahead and attempt that cancellation and see if it was just a fluke, like a one-time thing. But what you want to do is you want to save your premium rotatables for when that uptime picks up. Now, it shouldn't be too long. Okay, it should be like within 15 to 20 tasks usually is when you get through the storm of it. So this has happened a couple of times, and usually what we do is you get through the worst of it with as little damage as possible, and then you're able to kind of pick up and make up for it. So usually when you have a really bad start, you have a really good end. So expect that the end of the list, the end of your contest, is going to be relatively decent. Meaning, if you are not in war during the end of the contest, that's going to probably be problematic, because the game will likely start kicking you a lot of war tasks. Now, it's really important that you guys understand when you're in a downtime and when you're not in a downtime. So really pay very close attention to what the game is giving you. You know, if it's giving you a little bit of good and a little bit of bad, that is pretty typical. That's usual. But if it's just giving you bad, that's a downtime. Okay? Try to recognize that and rotate in your stupid tasks that you wouldn't normally do, like I just said, like coins, repair, things like that. And then when it starts to pick up, you rotate in your premiums. Now, I know how confusing rotation is for people already, so having to reverse it and learn it backwards is kind of even more confusing. But basically what you're doing is you're saying, I have good tasks and I have bad tasks. I'm going to use my bad tasks up during the downtime, and I'm going to use my good tasks up during my uptime. It's just a matter of finding the right balance and when to rotate those in. You know, you got to make sure that you're not making mistakes and doing stupid stuff like chemicals. Okay, there's certain things that you just don't do. Some of those are really problematic. Sugar, low value sugar and low value chemicals, it will destroy your week. Okay, if your chemicals task or your sugars task falls below the 1600 threshold, right around 1600 to 1700, it shouldn't be touched at all. The only reason it even gets touched above that is because it's taking up that 2K placement. Okay, those particular tasks have a habit of coming in continuously, and even though they don't take very long, when you look at it like this, it's repeated. You know, it comes in too frequently. So textiles, for instance, that one only takes 90 minutes, and it doesn't usually come back in as frequently as chemicals. So even if you could do the stuff in the amount of time, if people don't understand that it's not just the fact that you found time to get it done, it's the fact that it comes back again. And if it comes back worth 2,000 points, now it's a problem. Now it's like you can't let it sit because it's taking up that placement, right? So if it's of a low value and it's not a problem in terms of one of your 2K placements, it just doesn't make sense to rotate it in, taking 700 points down off your average, to rotate in something that inevitably is going to just basically come back. It almost always comes back once it's already in your list. If it's not in your list, it may stay away for the whole duration of the contest, but once it's there, it's almost always there. Same with the design challenges. If you get a submit design challenge for 2,500, a lot of the times that you cancel those, they almost always come right back. So canceling those should be done very cautiously. Okay, if you're already hurting on your average and you have other 2K placements open, I highly recommend just leaving it be. If you are really good on your average and you have a lot of 2K placements taken up and you need to risk it, then go ahead and risk it. But you just kind of have to test out what could happen and what should happen and what's there, what's not there. You got to be able to kind of predict the future in a sense. You got to try. You know, a lot of times I'll say something like, okay, you're going to do this and we're hoping for this type of task, and more often than not, that is what ends up happening. So you start to learn patterns. If you really focus, you'll start to learn the patterns. But you have to be focused and you have to pay very close attention and analyze everything that you do and the result of what it is, not just opportunity for the type of task, but for the value of it as well. You know, and people always think that like when the game kicks you a high upgrade that the game was bad to you. Well, technically it was bad for your particular situation, but it did result in a high premium kickback, right? So taking that knowledge into consideration, you just have to realize that some things that you may view as a bad thing happening isn't necessarily the game's idea of bad. You know, it's unique to your current situation. And that's the next thing when it comes to picking your tasks. The better prepped you are for these situations, the better off you'll be. If you see that you're going to be tied up for the next couple of hours, it's a good idea to prep textiles if they're there in your list. For example, I have a girl, it's her morning, it's her daytime. She has feed for 1,200, She had glass for 2,300, which she cleared when she woke up in the morning. She has textiles for 1,300, chemicals for 1,200. She decided to prep chemicals. That was a huge mistake. You're not going to bank in on those. She should have prepped the textiles. Now, why is that? Because, well, even if the textiles were lower than the chemicals, they come back less frequently. Now instead, those are not prepped. She's got to wipe out the chemicals, not touch the task, and then start that 90-minute timer. Now, being how you can't afford to just be idle during your daytime, now she's stuck having to rotate something in that she wouldn't normally rotate in because she didn't prep properly. So prepping at the right time is key. Noticing like, hey, I know I'm going to be tied up for the next couple of hours, or at least for the next 2 hours, which means I'd only have an hour to possibly have to use my factories. That is a good time to always try to at least be one step ahead of the game. You know, what you don't want to do though is you don't want to get ahead of yourself and constantly prep and then have your factories tied up for if you get a metal or a minerals or whatever task. So let's say that you get a task for glass and it's for 55. You're not going to go ahead and do 40 of them. You're going to do half of them. That way, if something else comes in the meantime, you have those factory slots available to be able to utilize those. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead, get this uploaded. Hopefully this helps you guys get through this week. Do the best that you can during the downtime. It should pick up near the end of the contest. And just like I said, just do the best that you can. The competition shouldn't be too bad this week considering there's no pass. But, and then you also have to take into consideration that basically everybody is experiencing this. So if you can get one step ahead of them and sort it out, then you'll be okay. If you haven't liked and subscribed, make sure you do that because I do put videos out daily on SimCity. And if you have any questions, you can hit me up on Facebook. We do have a Facebook page, SimCity Buildit, MissyanneTTVYT. You can join us on Facebook. All of our guides are posted there. Video links, all that good stuff is posted on our Facebook page. I am going to be putting out a contest to mayor's guide that, I mean, it's out, but I'm going to be fixing it up and making these descriptions much more clear. I'm also going to be working on kind of leveling opportunity so that people understand that not all of the tasks pose the same opportunity. So I'm going to try to make that more clear. Hopefully I'll have it done by today or tomorrow. It'll depend. We'll see. But look for that if you're somebody who refers to the quick guide, which you should because it's super helpful. Try to go back through and look at the changes that are going to be made, and I will put out an announcement when they are made, and I will try to do a video explaining what those changes are and what they mean and all that. All right, you guys, good luck.